Welcome to the messy middle of entrepreneurship, unfiltered and unapologetic. Uncensored Entrepreneurs, hosted by Star Cod, Robert Wall, and Tina Torres-Wilson, brings you real stories from the trenches of building a business. Those late nights, hard lessons, big wins, and everything in between. This is where the truth about entrepreneurship lives. No fluff, no filters, just raw, honest conversations with founders who have lived it. So, if you're over the highlight reel and you're ready for the real deal, hit play. Today, we have our special guest, Joanna Hairabedian. Joanna, we're very much looking forward to having you on today's show. And many of our guests don't know every single thing about you. So we'd like to share just a little bit about some of the work that you do, and then we'll let you really share your journey with the rest of us on the show.
Joanna Hairabedian is the Soulmate Strategist. She's a transformational relationship coach and author from Solo to Soulmate, Break the Cycle, Attract the One, and Rewrite Your Love Story, and creator of the Solo to Soulmate Method. She helps successful women break unhealthy relationship patterns, heal emotional wounds, and attract aligned, lasting love, blending faith, emotional intelligence, and identity based coaching. Joanna equips women to move from overgiving and self doubt to clarity, confidence, and healthy connection. Her work focuses on rewriting internal narratives, strengthening self work, and cultivating relationships rooted in mutual respect and emotional availability. She was also Miss America from 2019 to 2021. Joanna brings a unique presence that combines elegance, strength, and spiritual depth. Through her coaching programs, speaking engagements, and media appearances, she empowers women to not only find love, but to become the woman who can sustain it. Welcome, Joanna.
This is gonna be a really juicy episode, let me just tell you.
So I have to say this really quick here before we let Joanna jump into this. This is a special episode, Joanna, because Tina, she hasn't been on the last few episodes. She's been incognito for a little while now. She just came back on live with us just in your honor because she knew you were going to be on the show today.
Well, I'm so glad I could help inspire that. She is my book strategist and coach, and she's amazing. And thank you, Tina, for inviting me today. It's just so awesome to be with you guys.
Now listen, Joanna has a lot going on, but one of the things that nobody knows is Star just said she was a former Miss America. What? And she struggled with finding her perfect soulmate. So, one of the questions, Joanna, I want you to be honest. How many women do you think are settling in relationships right now because they're afraid to be alone?
Tina, that I think is a powerful question because I think there's a lot of women. Before I met and married Mr. Right, my amazing, incredible husband, Dr. David Hairabedian, I was on that singles journey myself for what ended up being a long time, over a decade. I felt like forever. And I previously married Mr. Wrong the first time. And that ended up in a disaster. And my breaking point was I was on the floor of the kitchen crying my eyes out, that ugly cry. And I was mad at God because I thought God had told me to marry this guy and thought he was the man of my dreams. And it was the complete opposite. He was a wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm doing shaking my fist at God and I just want to walk away from you, but I don't want to hold up a mirror to my face and show me how I ended up in this disaster. How did I even marry this guy? And let me tell you, that was the beginning of my truth journey because I could have blamed Mr. Wrong for all the really bad things that happened. And I did have to get healing from the trauma I experienced. However, I realized that there are two sides of the coin. You have a side of the coin of the women in a relationship, and you have the side of the coin of the men. Each one is 100% responsible for their choices, their actions, their words, etc. So I realized when I had that spiritual mirror held up to my face, I had to look inside. What was my part in the failure of this marriage? Why did I marry him? Why did I allow myself to get pressured into this? And let me tell you, it takes a lot of courage to allow yourself to see that truth mirror and see the good, the bad, and the ugly about yourself and your motive.
I think it's hard as a woman to say, "Ooh, that was a hard knife to the chest," because It was him who did this. But then you got to look at yourself inwardly and say, okay, where am I? Where's my fault at in this? And I think that's a big, huge misconception in a marriage and a relationship, wherever you're in, is that you're always pointing the finger. But when you point it, you always got three other fingers pointing back at you.
Well, there is. And it doesn't excuse the hurt that was caused in the relationship. That's a whole other subject. Okay. If we don't look at ourselves and what was our motivation, like, for example, my motivation, truth be told, be honest, for marrying him, one of them was I was tired of being single.
Yeah. You just wanted to get married.
Yeah. I wanted to get married.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I was just going to say that this is a fantastic topic to talk about because number one, on Uncensored, we allow entrepreneurs to tap into the things that really bog down our lives, which then transcends into our business, right? Relationships are probably the number one thing. When nothing's going good at home, everything else in business and life just seems to start falling apart. So I love the fact, though, that you brought this up. It doesn't excuse the responsibility of what the other party did, but understanding how can we grow from this. And when you just brought up you were just tired of being single, so many of us fall into this trap. Even men, believe it or not. Maybe we're a little bit different, right? The way we're wired. However, I will say that so many people just have this fantasy of what life will be like on the other side of the fence. And we want and crave that so much that we just say yes, right? We're like, let's just do it.
Well, that and society right now, right? Everybody's highlight reel. And Joanna, I don't know about you, but when I was in that single stage, Tina, just stop being so picky. Just settle. These guys have literally watched me fall in love. I mean, he wasn't even Tony when I told them about Tony. He was Paco. And I was like, so I'm dating a guy. But everybody used to tell me, Tina, stop. Everybody does not have to go by your list of my perfect man. And I'm like, no, he chews too loudly. He does this loudly. They're like, just settle, just settle. And society was trying to get me to just get married, Tina, or find somebody. Robert, to what you're saying, social media, and you're seeing everybody's highlight reel. And even when I see you and Star out there having fun on date night and doing this and this, but I know the real stories that nobody else sees.
It takes a lot of work, all the trauma and the loss that's attached to that journey before you find, as you said, Joanna, Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, right?
Right, exactly. And that's one of the reasons that I wrote From Solo to Soulmate, because I fell in that trap. And it's painful. It's a very painful place to be. And you go through cycles. At least I did. I went through a cycle where I was strong in myself and my identity one moment. And then the next moment, I'm battling envy and jealousy because she has a husband and I don't. She has children and I don't. But then if we don't get healed of the trauma and the root of that, I chose to marry this man and I didn't have a peace about marrying him to begin with Mr. Wrong. But because I didn't want to be single, I was tired of being single. I was tired of being the third wheel of the cog. My time clock is ticking, right? I fell into that trap. And so in my book, From Soul to Soulmate, I help women stay out of the trap. And if you fell into it, you're going to know how to get out of that trap of the pattern. I want to bring up another very interesting point because oftentimes what we think is chemistry is actually a familiar pattern.
We hope you're enjoying this conversation as much as we are. One thing we've learned through building our own businesses and from the stories we hear on this podcast is that podcasting can be one of the most powerful tools for growth, but only when it's done strategically. That's why we're such fans of So True. It's a podcast strategy and production agency that helps entrepreneurs create shows that lead to real results, audience growth, aligned leads, and increased sales. So, if you're thinking about starting a podcast or you want to get better results from the one that you already have, check them out at sotruemedia.com. That's sotruemedia.com. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
So it's familiar and we think it's chemistry. For example, if you grew up in a chaotic home, what are you going to be attracted to? What's familiar?
The ups and downs.
Right. Or maybe you have that pattern in your life and you're addicted to drama. I talk about that in chapter 8, the drama queen. Addicted to drama, intensity. There's always something going on. There's always something dramatic happening, but she's become used to that. And part of her then starts to crave it. So then when she meets the bad boy, because we're programmed and conditioned to like the bad boys, not the nice guy who's going to actually treat you right and love you, but you're not, that's not familiar to you. So to you, that's going to be boring.
That is so interesting, and walking away from the nice guy, that's how I ended up divorced because I was like, "Oh, I'm supposed to be on this path, met someone in college, got married. I'm just following the exact timeline that I believe or that society teaches this is the correct way to go." And this person asked me to marry them just before they asked me. I was like, I don't want to be with this guy." Yeah, that was definitely not my soulmate.
What's interesting is sometimes because you follow those patterns, it takes those the closest to you, like your true friends, those around you, maybe even strangers, to identify the good ones. You know what I mean? Because as you said, Joanna, the habits. And interesting enough, I can really relate to this conversation already because I actually played the character of both tales here, right? Growing up, I was the bad boy. I admit, really, quite honestly, through growth, through some of my own trauma, and when some of these things started happening to me at a young age, I started to realize the value of that relationship and really building that connection, the soulmate connection that I know you're going to talk a lot more about. And so my life transformed throughout the years. And now I would say that I'm on the other end. I'm really sensitive.
You're on your second marriage. I'm on my third marriage, but to the second person because I married one guy twice. I was so stupid. I married the same guy twice. Joni and I talk about this all the time. Damn, I wish we would have met when we were in our 20s or when we were 25. And I'm like, you might not have liked me.
You wouldn't have been ready.
I was a different person when I was Tina Tequila when I was 25. I wasn't this person.
So, Joanna, how did you work through that process of healing yourself and becoming that woman to attract who you have now?
I'll tell you, the best shrink in the entire universe is the Holy Spirit. I got to tell you, it's for real because we don't know what we don't know. And it was through that searching, I had role models. There were women who I would observe who had a great marriage. And I would begin to observe women who had a good relationship with their spouse. And what was she doing different? How was she different from me? How was I different from her? Well, that time in my life, I battled major insecurity. I battled unworthiness, which were some of the driving factors that was underneath me deciding to marry Mr. Wrong the first time. And now Mr. Wrong appeared to be great. I met him in church and he was in ministry and everybody was talking about what a great husband he's going to be. Oh yeah, this is your future husband, la la la. Well, it was the complete opposite because the second day after we got married, it's like, well, I don't love you. What? And that was the beginning of hell on earth. And so,
The day after you guys got married, he came to you and said, I don't love you.
right.
The day after they got married, on your honeymoon, your husband comes to you and says, I really don't love you.
I don't love you. Stone cold face. It was like a Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, completely different person surfaced after we got married. Then I found out that he had a drinking problem. He was living a double life. Then eventually I found out he was cheating on me for most of the time. And I tried to separate 3 times. There was emotional,
God forbid you get a divorce.
right? See, and that's the other thing I felt.
The guilt.
Yeah, so I could have had this marriage annulled, but I did not have good counsel at that time, and so I didn't, and then went through all these things. But I say all that to say this, because there's so many women that have found themselves in the same situation, or they're about to step into that same scenario. And that's where From Solo to Soulmate comes in because I can help you reroute that. Don't make that decision, but learn how to understand. So I began to evaluate myself through the help of the Holy Spirit. Okay, why am I doing this? What is the lies I'm believing about myself? Where did that lie come from? What's the root of that? You see, there's always a root. And I didn't have an addiction, but underlying any addiction or any form of pain or hurt is the need to be loved. So you didn't get that somewhere. Something was missing. And so that's what I help women walk through is what is that thing underneath you that maybe has been sitting in the tomb of your heart, covered up, And it's an owie, but that owie has created these lies that you're believing, and these lies are dictating all the choices in your life. And like you mentioned earlier, Robert, our relationships, how we see ourselves dictates how we're going to operate in business, whether we're going to be successful or we're going to quietly sabotage. I have a friend who we presented an amazing opportunity to go on a huge platform to promote what he does in the ministry. And when he was on with the producer, he's playing small, like he hasn't really done any. And this guy has done phenomenal things for humanity, but he's playing small. I'll tell you why. Part of him doesn't feel worthy, and he's believing the lie that that's being humble. Well, I used to do the same thing, and we think we're being humbled by diminishing ourselves, but we're really not. That's actually a form of pride. We're actually quite prideful in the opposite way.
Absolutely.
Joanne, how do you think so many strong, successful women in today's society still struggle to find or keep that right relationship?
I think a part of it is we're taught a certain thing. And when we're a strong, independent entrepreneur, that is a strength. I was this too. I did all these mistakes that I talk about. This is why I know how I can teach it. Okay. Yeah. And Tina can relate to that. So, one of the things that I started doing, and I didn't realize I was doing this, because if you're in a field, you're working with men, you got to be a certain persona, you got to act a certain way, you have to have a certain energy, right? And so then what happens though is we don't know how to turn that off. Or we get caught up in that identity of being tough chick. I can open my own door. I can carry my own bags. You don't need to help.
I don't need a man.
Preach it. I love that from both sides because you're absolutely right. Some become so hardened and so independent that they overlook, again, the good guys that are trying to open the door for them, right?
And I think it's even harder the longer you are single. Because the longer you're single, the more independent you become, the more I can do this by myself. I know that happened to me during my dating time. So, what do you do? Oh, I'm a coach. I help people write best selling books. Oh, but you don't have a real job? What?
Yes, what happens is you lose your sense of femininity and softer beauty. And especially if you've been hurt or whatever, now you're carrying that hurt, that becomes a wall. And so then what that drilled that down is can't receive. So I had that persona. Oh, I don't need anybody. I'm tough, Tony, and I can open up my own door. But the bottom line is I didn't know how to receive. I couldn't even receive a compliment. Somebody would try to compliment me, I'd reject the compliment. What am I going to reject my husband for when he gives me a compliment? He tells me I look beautiful and I look great in this outfit, but I'm feeling bloated that day. What am I going to say? You're just saying that. Look at me. I look fat. What have I done? I've rejected him. I've told him he's a liar because he believes that I look beautiful. So I've told him he's a liar and I've told him I don't want him to compliment me. So now I've done three negative things that you keep doing that over and over. It ain't going to work.
It's getting hot over here in so many different ways. I'm sitting here because you're speaking the truth, Joanna. And so it's refreshing to hear this. I know that your book is written obviously for the majority of your audience, right?
My book, I had to pick an audience to write it to, but what's been fascinating is men are really loving my book because they are getting these nuggets and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is what I experienced. She did that too and told me it was my fault." And then the women are relating to it.
You're 100% right. I was just going to say you're spot on. And that's why this is refreshing. And I think that as our audience tunes in, that they should really take a hard look at some of these things.
You remember that book by Steve Harvey? That's What Women Want. All the women got it. But all the men were like, all of our girlfriends and wives are all reading this book. We want to read it too. So they started reading it.
It's understanding that love language, right? Really, most of it all comes down to communication. I think most of us would know if we talked a little bit more before we got married, we probably would either get married earlier or we would have never married that person, right? I love that you're just at least touching basis on some of these things. And I just want to throw this out there and really let you just elaborate more on it. Is it safe to say that when most of us in a relationship, we're pointing fingers at the other person, that most of us see those red flags from day one, but we ignore them intentionally?
Yeah, it depends on the behavior, right? First, you have triggers. So, if we have something within us, like when we have a strong reaction to something and it's really unwarranted, that's a sign that's not the person. of what they said, that's a sign for you that there's a trigger in you. It's good actually, because now you can go, okay, what's really underneath that? What did that remind me of? Why did I get so upset when it really wasn't warranted? Then you have the red flags. And I'm going to share a practical example. So when I met my husband, David, we initially were not attracted to each other. And I didn't know that was my future husband. And then over time, that's a whole other story. I won't go into that right now, but we ended up becoming really good friends. And he's in the ministry, I'm in the ministry. And then our friendship stage, when there was starting to be a little bit of attraction, but I wasn't aware of it yet. He's a consultant, he's in ministry, so he's on the phone all the time. So we were on a phone call. At that time, he lived in Missouri, I lived in California. And we were on the phone and he's like, "Oh, hang on a minute. I just need to take this call really quick. I'll be right back." And then I got put on the eternal hold. I'm like, "Okay, I'll let this go." Then it happened again, right? And I'm like, "Okay." So I had to work through my irritation. And old Joanna would approach it like this. She would have said, "You always leave me on hold. That is so rude. I can't believe you're so rude. Can't you just tell me you're going to be back?" That would have been old Joanna. The new Joanna, who has learned how to walk in her queendom and her royalty, said, "Can I ask you a question?" He's like, "Sure." I said, "Yeah, I know you would never intentionally disrespect me or dishonor me." He's like, "Oh, no, I wouldn't." I said, "And I know you probably don't realize this, but next time we're on the phone, can you just let me know and then just tell me you call me back? Because the last couple times I was left on that eternal hold and I felt disrespected. And I know you didn't do that on purpose." He's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." If he didn't honor the way that I said it and he didn't respect that, that right there, little keys unlock big doors swing on small hinges. That would have told me that if down the road bigger things come up and that is a concern or an issue for me, he would not have listened to me. He wouldn't have been coachable. But because he was coachable and he listened, and I didn't berate him, I didn't have a snarky tone or anything like that. So then I'm like, okay, he's coachable. So he honored and listened to what I said. And I took the ground, the assumption that he's not doing it intentionally. Because as a healthy man, had I gone the route, even just as a friend, "Well, you always," and I would have blamed him and accused him, he would have been all, "Oh, okay, well, I'm certainly not going to date somebody like that who's going to fly off the handle just because I left her on hold by accident." We do see the red flags, Robert, and we just choose to ignore them.
And I think both parties do for whatever reason, right? They've got the blinders on, especially when you're courting. And going back to, I think a few of you have already mentioned that pressure of feeling like I've been single for so long, I just have to commit.
Not anybody's perfect. So you start to say, "Oh, well, him putting me on hold for a long time, at least he's not cheating." Using the behavior, right?
Yeah. So, Joanna, in your book, Solo to Soulmate, what's one shift that could completely change how someone approaches love starting today?
I think one of the biggest shifts you can do starting today is learn how to receive. That really dictates everything. And I'm going to share a quick analogy. So, I was a queen of being unable to receive, right? I had this vision as I was meditating, I was praying. I had created this beautiful, divine, exquisite bouquet of flowers for my best friend to honor her because it was her birthday. And so I present her with this bouquet and she looks at it, she snatches it out of my hand and she slaps me in the face, petals flying everywhere. And I'm like, "Oh," I was shocked. Then I was angry. And then I felt rejected. I'm like, "Well, I'm not going to give her any more gifts." And the Holy Spirit spoke to me, said, "That's how you make other people feel when you reject their gift of a compliment."
And how many of us, you guys included who are listening, have said that same thing? "Oh, I feel fat. You're just biased." I think I literally just said that to Tony this morning.
I think men even say it as well, but they internalize it, right? And just live with whatever it is that they're dealing with. That's interesting. And you brought it up earlier, Joanna, and the fact that being able to receive, meaning that myself as a husband, when my wife does feel a certain way about her appearance, the way she feels, whatever it may be, me acknowledging that with real genuine, like, you're beautiful, you're amazing, you can do anything that you want in life, all of those things just for both parties to understand that maybe our spouse or significant other isn't in a place where they fully can receive that. And so working through some of those things.
Yeah, I have a lot of couples who are actually going through the book together. We had recently counseled this one couple and they were considering marriage. And as they were going through the book, it was uncovering the miscommunication styles that they were having with each other. And so she was able to realize, oh, instead of telling him what he's doing wrong all the time and correcting him because I know what needs to be corrected, she learned how to shift that. And in turn, because she shifted that and she learned how to start bringing out the gold in him, then he responded to her to meet her needs. It's a natural dance that happens. But we learn to dance off kilter with each other, stepping on each other's feet in communication and lack of understanding. And right now in our culture, I think we have a very low emotional IQ. It's really been off the top. If you don't agree with someone, then somebody else may just go off the top if you don't agree politically or whatever. Well, when we just escalate from 0 to 100 like that in our emotional response, that's not a high emotional IQ. So we want to learn how to bring that down and really just understand and pause. There's power in the pause.
I'm not going to be their friend anymore. Unfriend.
I just had a podcast episode a couple weeks ago that I talked about the power is in the pause, right? I mean, this is so perfect. Let me ask you this. I'd love everyone's take on this, but let's dive into your book and your work in regards to breaking habits. And the one thing that comes to mind that I just want to put out there is I have a client, and one of the things that they worked through was relationship after relationship. And what I found in the pattern was every person she was with was a narcissist, right? And of course, there are plenty of narcissists out there. I deal with them both. There's men and females. However, we fall into this pattern where it's every single person becomes a controlling narcissist. And after relationship number 5, when you're like another controlling narcissist, you really have to start internalizing and looking at
Why do I keep coming back to the same type of person?
you become a magnet to this energy, and there's things that are this broken pattern in you that you're just carrying that into the next relationship. So what are your thoughts and take on that?
Well, I think step number one is become aware. We have to become more self aware and be on a search to become more aware. And that takes a little time and thought and to sit down and go, okay, what was a pattern of relationship number one? And this is an exercise that I take women through or people through in my book. Okay. Identify the last 3 or 4 relationships and what is the thing or things that is in common with each one. And then as you write it out, then you're going to see things from a different perspective. It's interesting. There's research that shows that when we journal, it actually increases our healing up to 50% faster. When we journal our thoughts, all that kind of stuff, our pain, our hurts, or whatever. And so you write that out. And then if you're a believer, whatever your spiritual journey is, ask God to reveal to you some things that you can't see. And let me tell you, that's one of the fastest ways to really identify what a pattern is. But step number one, write it out. What are the common denominators in your last 3 or 4 relationships or your marriages, whatever it is? And that is going to really be an eye opener because then you can go deeper. Okay, so it has this in common. He's controlling, he's domineering, he abuses me. Is this familiar? Because most of the time, I'm pretty sure it's familiar because you had something like that in your life. Then you have to identify that.
Growing up, right?
Growing up, right. So whether it was from mom or dad, or maybe you were bullied, whatever it is, where's the trauma? It could be a little trauma. You have big traumas and little traumas. Example of a little trauma is you're little and you're excited to see daddy and you go up to hug daddy and he's tired and he pushes you away. You think you're now rejected. Or as growing up as a kid, maybe you had trouble relating to other kids and you got rejected, you got bullied. Those are all plays a part. So then what happens? Well, nobody likes me. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not this. I'm not that. Those get internalized. But step number one is to identify the pattern. What's the common root? And then you can go from there.
Yes. And Joanna, what about the woman who is not even willing to embrace your method because they just feel there are no good men out there? I hear that a lot.
Or they're too old. Love probably already passed me by. I'm 50 years old. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna ever get married again.
50 is the new 30. I'm sorry.
Been there, done that. I would tell God, I'm like, okay, I don't want to be rolling down the aisle in my wheelchair by the time I finally meet a guy. I want to be able to walk and have a hot dress on. Those are agreements that we come in agreement with. And if you're not willing to challenge the agreement you come into agreement with, the thought, then you're going to be stuck in that for a long time. And if you're happy being stuck in that, well, there's nobody can do to help you. I met a woman who she was single for a long time. She already had 4 marriages under her belt. And we were talking about her dating patterns. Well, I can't seem to find the right guy. And well, we discovered part of the problem was that she was engaging in superhero deactivators because she's a strong businesswoman. She's got an extremely high IQ. So she was making the guys feel inferior, not building them up. It's not like you're going to go with people who are just needy, but just basic affirming, right? So she was engaging in all these superhero deactivators that was making the guys feel bad. And of course, who's going to be want to be around that? But when that topic came up, she wasn't willing to look at herself. She wasn't willing to humble herself to say, okay, I am doing this because she was doing that, but she wasn't willing to change. So she wasn't hurting enough to make a change yet.
And I think it's like as a friend, as a girlfriend, you would need to say that and you have to be like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. But now that I come to you 4 dates in, telling you what I repeated to him, and you guys are telling me you're probably emasculating him a little bit. What? No,
I can't imagine you overpowering him in any way, Tina. I just can't. Tony's just like, yes, ma'am.
he definitely is not a yes ma'am person. But our communication in this marriage is completely different than mine in my previous marriage. I tolerated things that I would never tolerate now. You guys would have thought, who is this person?
Because you've mentioned this a few times, Joanna, like acknowledgement. You have to acknowledge that there is something that needs to be worked on, right? There's an issue or there's work that has to be had. If you cannot ever get to that point, then the work can't start. And you're absolutely right. I think that in all marriages, all relationships, there's going to be the disagreement, but it's understanding, being able to communicate and walk through those things. And the other thing is understanding. When I mentioned love language earlier with my wife, Kelly, we really had, it took us about probably the first 2 years to really realize just the way that we perceive energy, the way we like to handle things. I'm a person of action. I want to solve problems immediately. I want to fix things, right? For her, she needs time to decompress, just be on her own for a while in that pause, much longer than me. So, understanding that, we finally found a really happy place.
What's your love language?
Well, I've got a couple, but I do love compliments.
Hers is words of affirmation.
Exactly. I'm an empath. So for me, I'm a big lover and to a detriment at times. I have to understand that as well because sometimes people, they want that space, that cushion in between. So, yeah.
What about you, Star? Do you know your love language?
Well, I thought it was gifts, but as I've gotten older, it's really acts of service.
So mine used to be gifts. I mean, it still is, but mine used to be gifts big time. But with Tony, it's something different. Now it's acts of service and quality time.
I feel like men are into the affirmations quite a bit and us making you feel like you're worthy. Whereas women, you like gifts or things done for us. I mean, I could be wrong. I know everyone has their different take, but I do see that a lot.
Tony, his number one is words of affirmation. Number two is acts of service. And I think it's so important to know that because, say, Star, your husband knows that yours is gifts and he just does things for you. You don't care. You're not bringing me nothing. When's the last time you gave me anything? But he's fixing the sink for you and he's doing this for you and he's putting gas in your car for you. Those are acts of service because that's what he does. That's what he wants. So that's what he's portraying.
I used to be really heavy on that end. And again, that's why it's understanding your relationship. Kelly made it very clear at early in our relationship, like, stop giving me flowers. I don't want objects. She's not a materialistic person, right? And it was different than my past. It was someone that wanted gifts constantly. But yeah, interesting. I want you to expand on this. And I know we only have a little bit of time, but I think this is the most powerful part of your work. You have mentioned it multiple times throughout this conversation, and I did not want to overlook or dismiss the Holy Spirit. The fact that that is such a major element, I would imagine, and well, it is in all of our lives, but in the work that you do, because so many of us, Joanna, we try to fix it ourselves, do we not?
We do.
So, how can someone that is sitting in the absence of that, they're in a broken relationship, they're trying to either repair it or remove themselves from there. What are some things that they can do immediately when it comes to embracing and taking action, especially when it comes to the Holy Spirit?
Well, I think number one, if you haven't had a relationship with God, then just ask Him for one. That's what I did. The way that I was doing life wasn't working for me. I was discouraged. I had said a simple prayer. I said, you know what, God, I don't know you. I don't love you. But I ask that you put a love in my heart and a passion for you that I've never known before. And today I give you my soul, I give you my life, and I give you my body. And I ask that you change me because I can't change myself. And let me tell you, that was the open door. And then simple prayer. And I stayed true to that because I meant what I said. God did that. So when we just open the door and just invite Him in, and then you get that deeper walk and you keep seeking Him. What's interesting in Hebrew, the scripture, ask and you shall receive, knock and it shall be open, seek and you shall find. But in Hebrew, that means keep asking, keep knocking, keep seeking. So don't stop. Keep doing that. And let me tell you, that's going to exponentially advance your life and bring incredible healing that would normally take years, sometimes decades, depending on what's happened to you. And then you invite the Holy Spirit in, and He's the counselor. It's that simple to say, I invite Him in and just invite Jesus in and say, hey, I want a relationship with you. Change me because I can't change myself.
Joanna, what's on the horizon for you?
Well, we have exciting things on the horizon. We are preparing to launch my new coaching program. We're in final production round of that. And you can go to solo-to-soulmate.com, get on the wait list. But I'm very excited because it's called Love Unblocked. And it's going to help people unblock what's been blocking them in their life with relationships. We're going to go through step by step, and it's going to be very powerful. A lot of people have been asking for this. And so here we go. We're going to launch this.
Talk to the person who it's for out there.
It's for the person who's frustrated. You're frustrated with your life. Things have not been working out. You keep meeting the same scenario. So whether it's the same situation that keeps playing over with different people and you just don't understand what's going on, or you're stuck and you don't know why you're stuck and you want to be unstuck and you just need someone to help guide you on that process. Like I mentioned earlier, little keys unlock big doors swing on small hinges. So if you're frustrated, you're tired of the same scenario in your life, you want to have the desires of your heart, and Love Unblocked will help you unlock those hindrances you can't put your finger on right now.
Wow. Drop the mic.
Joanna, how can people get your book? How can they get a hold of you?
So they can get my book. Just go to from solo to soulmate book.com, and it's on Amazon. You can just go through that link, from solo to soulmate book.com, and order the book. And we have a lot of people who have been buying 2 books. They're gifting a book to a friend, or they're doing Bible studies.
You gift it to the man you're dating.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a requirement before.
Exactly. That's right. This is a prerequisite to marriage. We're going to go through this together so we both get it right.
I love that. I think if anyone that is listening is still involved in speed dating, you should show up with about 6 of these books and pass them out to every person as you rotate through.
Everybody gets one. And then together we change a culture to make it a healthy dating culture.
I love it. Joanna, thank you so much for being on the show. Gosh, time flies so fast. And there's so many things that I know we're going to need to talk about in the future. One of the things I love about this more than anything is we're talking about relationships. But again, as I had just mentioned before we even went live, when you heal that, when you heal your relationship with self, with your significant other, absolutely with your higher power, with God, when those 3 things are in alignment, everything else falls in place, right? You start seeing success in your life, your goals and ambitions start to come to fruition, and your business starts to thrive. And so I really think that this is the catalyst. This is the area that people need to really focus on. They're always looking for the magic pill for all the other things, but this is so important.
TikTok and Instagram too. I've been following her for a long time, watching her, and she just gives some amazing tips on there. So go follow her on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook as well. But from solo to soulmate book.com, you can grab one, can grab two, grab six if you're speed dating, and give one to your significant other because listen, this is what a 350-page book. It is life changing.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. You guys are amazing and it's been awesome.
Thank you so much, Joanna. You guys have a great day and make today count.
Thanks for listening to the Uncensored Entrepreneurs. If you're getting value from the show, take a minute to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you tune in. It helps more bold entrepreneurs find us. Until next time, keep showing up, uncensored and unapologetic. And we'll catch you on the next episode.